My name is Branden Sewell. I'm the owner of Seal Pro Painting, and I'm the host of the Off the Ladder podcast. We exist to help home service business owners learn so that they can lead well and ultimately live life off the ladder. I'm joined with today's guest. It's Lorna Greyling. I know Lorna through my local BNI. I know that many of you guys have heard me talk about BNI. Lorna is the founder of Mpower TV. Welcome to today's interview, Lorna.
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you for having me. What a pleasure and what an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could, for the guest, if you could just give a quick introduction to what you do, and I guess both the magazine as well as Empower TV.
Yeah, so Empower TV is my passion project. I feel it's the reason why I live. It's my purpose, my calling from God, if I can say that. And that is to share stories, right? Stories of overcoming. I believe that every person has an amazing story of their life and how they overcame that. If they share that, that can change someone else's life. We've had emails of people, wanting to commit suicide, being in a really bad space in their life, and watching an episode, it changed their mind. And they're still alive today. So I can literally say that we are saving lives, changing lives. So I love it. I just, regular people, not necessarily high profile celebrity guests, but just ordinary people sharing their stories. I love it. So yeah, that's the TV show. And then I also do local marketing for local businesses. And I think that's how we met, right? At the BNI.
Yes.
So I love that. It's just helping local businesses with their local marketing. It's the most important thing that a business should do and should have in place. It's the number one reason why small businesses close is because of a lack of marketing. And it's actually my reason for doing it is because I did lose my own business of 21 years. I owned a very large wellness center and day spa aesthetic center in South Africa. It was at some point the largest wellness center in Melville in Johannesburg. And I did a lot of marketing. I grew it from one little room in my garden at home to this really large business because I did a ton of marketing. Then I sold 50% of my business to a business partner. And, a lot of things changed in the business. And one of it was marketing. So, a lot of the marketing budget was cut and we didn't feel it at first. It was just a slow decline, right? Because when you're so big, you don't feel it. A lot of people say, oh, I stopped all my marketing and I don't really see a difference. And so, yeah, for the first year, 2 years, 3 years, there wasn't a huge difference. And suddenly, right? Things started declining, and bottom line is I lost everything, every single thing I ever owned, like the business, the property. And it's a long story why, but marketing was definitely a large portion of why we lost it. So I don't want any business owner to go through that. It's very painful.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive into this. So what exactly I know you guys have the magazine, but there are different services that you guys offer in addition to the magazine, correct?
Yes. So the company that I work for is Best Version Media, and we assist local businesses in just getting their groundwork ready for marketing, right? So AI optimized websites, we make sure their SEO is done and ready. Search engine optimization, so that when people search, that they can be found, right? That's like the first thing that is really important, especially for a new business, is when you're in your local community and new people moving to the area or potential clients are looking for your service. If you don't show up, they cannot find you, right? So you're literally leaving money on the table. So we're just making sure that they're well listed. We have a listing service where we list them on up to 50 apps, local apps with search engines and location. If they have an address on there, these apps will pick it up. So we list them, we help them with their review management. So when you start a brand new business, reviews are pretty important to start to get going. And that's very daunting for a lot of new businesses. So we help with that. And then we do obviously the rest, digital advertising. So ads, display ads, meta ads, retargeting ads, which is very important to have that in your ads when you do run ads. And then obviously we have local magazines as well that reaches high-end customers.
Yeah.
So people above a certain income demographic. Yeah, and all of those together, it's a combined marketing plan. It really just helps them, get off their feet and make sure that everything is ready for them so that their website works for them while they're working, right?
Yeah, that's really good. And I think this is really helpful to like the newer business owner or a younger business that doesn't really have some of these things figured out already. But you brought up two things that I wanted to kind of hone in on, like your listings online. Like you might think like, I just want to be listed by Google and I'm not really concerned about all of the other listing sites where you could put your business name, address, description of what you do. I think the problem with having this approach of let me just be on Google is younger businesses may not realize that the way that Google indexes your website or your business based on search is it's like this giant database, right? So if your business is not on all of these other sites and your address and the name of your business and everything isn't the same, it's not consistent, it's not everywhere, well, you're not going to show up as high in rankings as the company that is updated across all platforms online and has their information out there, making
Yeah.
sure that their address is updated and phone numbers are updated and things like that. And so I think that's really important. It may
Yeah.
seem small, but it makes a huge impact on your search engine optimization. And I've been doing research on, AI. And from what I understand with AI, that's a big thing with AI. What do they call that? There's a technical term for the AI optimization. I forget what it is. I want to say it's like GEO, or do you know what the term is?
I
I can't
haven't heard
remember.
that term before,
Or
but yeah,
maybe it's
you're
AEO. I
absolutely.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. But you're absolutely right, Branden. I mean, you're so right. You're like spot on. So the algorithms work like a human, if I can explain it like that. They've got to trust you before they
Mm-hmm.
can recommend you. And
Right.
if they don't know what you do, then they don't know what to recommend. So number one, everything has to be listed really well and in sync with all your other platforms. And the reason why we list businesses on multiple different apps, even apps that you've never heard of, but they do have a search option in them, is because the more places that you are listed on, the better the algorithms can find you. When you start up showing up consistently, that's when Google will start ranking you higher. You can start outranking your competitors. And that is very important, especially for newer businesses, but even for older businesses. I meet with a ton of older businesses and they're like, struggling. There's like, oh, the market's down or people just don't spend as much, which is completely inaccurate. The market's not down. People are spending more than ever. There's
Mm-hmm.
just much more competition online. And newer
Yeah.
people, especially here in Brevard, right? Newer people are moving into the area all the time. New businesses, they're coming from all different states. Some people are retiring, right? And they start their own business. And so they push a lot of money into marketing and getting all of those things ready. And then older businesses who have just worked on word of mouth or started their business up and it's running pretty smoothly, but they don't have any of these things in place, they tend to fall behind just because the market share is being taken over. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much what happened with my business as well. I was there for like 20, at that time, like 15 years. Everybody knew us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of businesses that started coming in, other wellness centers, other day spas, other med spas, medical
Mm-hmm.
centers, and they started to take the market share. They were marketing while we were not.
Yeah.
And once the market share is taken over and these businesses are staying top of mind in front of their customers, those businesses who do not do that, they fall behind. And to then start up a marketing budget is very, very difficult because you have so many other expenses in your business. Is like, where do I find money for marketing? And marketing doesn't work quickly, right? It's something that takes time. It took me a long time to build that business up to where it
Mm-hmm.
was, that
Yeah.
with a lot of marketing. But the marketing takes a long time to start working and rolling. And then when you're behind, it's like, where do you start now? Now it's
Yeah.
really very difficult to find that budget for marketing when it doesn't immediately give you the ROI that you're wanting.
Yeah. I was just sharing this analogy with somebody recently. It was a newer business and they didn't really understand SEO or online listings. And I gave them this example. I said, imagine Google is basically, it's like a library online, right? And imagine you walk into a library and you see bookshelves, right? And you see different, genres or, whatever. So maybe you have like fiction here, nonfiction, and, biographies and history, whatever. And you have all of those. And your book, right, is on the shelf somewhere.
Yes.
And the more times you can put your book in there, the more it's going to get noticed. So, you want to make sure that your book is on the shelf of the main genre that you focus on. Let's say that's Google. So you want to make sure your book is there, right? But don't just have it, how many books do you have on that shelf? And then in the other places, so if you do painting, but then you have some other services that you offer, make sure all of those services are mentioned, make sure that they're detailed and described. And because what Google wants to be able to do is serve its customers well, right? So when somebody comes and they say, hey, I need information on this, or I'm looking for this company, the easier it is for Google to find the answer to that customer's question, the more likely they are to refer that book, if you will, or that business. So if your book is only on one shelf and there's another company that has their book on multiple shelves and they answer all of these customers' questions, then that book is going to be more likely to get referred to the customer. So, I was explaining to a friend, I was like, make sure that, you're on every listing site. If you have multiple services that you offer, don't just say painting. If you do interior painting, exterior painting, you paint pool decks, you paint, garage floors, you paint, like list every surface and have a designated page on your website for each one and have it, so it's basically getting that information out there. And if you don't feed, these listing sites and your website and put all that information out there, then Google has nothing to grab from, right?
Yeah,
To recommend
that's
your
so
business.
true. Yeah, it's such a great example. I go one step further and I actually explain it like it's like a big heap of washing, right? So maybe women will understand that pile of washing like lying in front, but imagine it's huge. It's like the mountain, right? And that's the businesses. It's all underneath, like you're somewhere low in between underneath about all this washing. It's very confusing. Everybody's listing something on Google every single day.
Yeah.
And so the chances that they'll find you is very, very slim, right? If you're only on one platform, and
Yeah.
like you say, everything is not listed on there. But the more, platforms that you're on and listed, now you're starting to move out of the pile and maybe you're going on to a hanger. Right.
Yeah.
Now in Google searches, right now you're much better found. At least you can see something
Yeah.
from the pile because it's a lot of businesses. And it's not only like being listed once or having your website done once, then you have a landing page. That's it. Now it has to be worked on the back end so that it will outrank your competitors. There are hundreds of the same businesses in one small area. Like
Yeah.
literally. And so which one does Google choose, right? Everybody's listed. So yeah, the more you're listed on different platforms, that helps. The more your website is done, it's got pages, everything is explained on there, that helps. But the more active you are on your listings and on your website, that means, running articles, putting constant new information on there, having the listings and put photos in there, updating them regularly, like having your Facebook page, like run that, connect that with everything else that you're doing, Instagram, connect that with everything else. Now there's movement, there's
Mm-hmm.
consistent movement, right, on all of these platforms. That Google notices that shows them that you're an active business. Something's happening in this business because there's constant movement happening all the time.
Yeah.
And that's when you start ranking higher and higher. Because if someone searches for a painter near me, which is the old way of searching on SEO in Google. Yes, you want to outrank your other painters in the area, because if you're not on that first page, their eyeballs are not on your brand, right? So they cannot
Right.
see you, so they'll never choose you. So you're losing money. But with SEO, with AI, people don't search like that anymore. They search for, hey, chat GPT or Gemini or whatever. They have even call them a name. So whatever they call
Yeah.
their chat, their friend. I'm painting my house, right? I'm not sure what color I wanted to paint, but I want someone that's going to show up on time, that's good in the community, that's not going to charge me, horrendous prices. And preferably, I want like a personally, locally owned business or something like that, right? So they'll give the ChatGPT a whole, spiel of what they want, not just painter near me. And if that is not set up behind the scenes, again, you're not going to be found. Right. So all of these things are changing. The way people searching are changing. It's not the same as a year ago, 2 years ago, and definitely not 10 years ago. I
Yeah.
sit with business owners all the time. I'm like, when was the last time you updated your website? Oh, 10 years ago, I have a website. My friend did it for me.
Yeah.
That's great. That means you have that. If you send that to people, they can go on there and see what you're doing. But that website will never show up for you while
Yeah.
you're working. So, and you want that. You don't want to just do all of your own marketing all the time. You want it to work for you at some point and showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot. And that's why business owners, this is the last thing they want to work on, because it's so daunting. It's so much work
Yeah.
and it's expensive marketing.
hmm
So, and they've got so much other stuff on their plate. It's like, even me, I have to do my own marketing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
every time I have to do it, I'm like, I got to really motivate myself and remind myself, like, okay, this is
Right.
important. I got to spend time on it. I got to make it work.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get
I
it.
mean, that's the thing is like, I think it's really important for business owners to be self-aware too. It's like you're either going to have the skill set and the ability and the understanding of marketing and how it works, or you don't. And if you don't have the time to learn it, you need to outsource it. But either way, you need to do it. I've heard I don't know who this quote is from, but I know there's a quote that says, stopping marketing to try and save money is like trying to turn off your watch to save time or something like that.
Yes.
It doesn't work. Like, you have to keep putting the marketing dollars in. You got to keep spending to keep the business going and to make more money. And obviously, invest that money in a wise way. But obviously, in the world that we live in, Google is king. And these AI platforms that are now being introduced, like, if you're not doing the work that needs to be done to get yourself out there, then it's a huge miss. And so, yeah, to your point, it's like, it is daunting. It's a lot. If you don't understand, or if you don't know how to edit a website, if you don't have a design background, if you don't understand like what, tags are and schema markup and, all of these different things that you have to do for SEO, then outsource it, let somebody else do it, and it works. Like, it really does. I mean, I've seen it from the work that I've done. I do my own website, and I've seen, like, as I put the work in to updating it and doing those things, making sure all of that. I mean, it's a lot of work. Every page, every picture, every paragraph, everything matters. So it is a lot, but I do see that it makes a difference. So if
Yeah.
you're listening to this, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I need to do something with SEO, you're right. And if you don't do it yourself, you need to find somebody to do it. So the other thing I wanted to just mention really quick, and I don't want to go on too long of a rabbit trail here. You mentioned reviews and reputation management. I think that's probably one of the most important things that a business can focus on when they first start out, and making sure that your reviews are authentic and from real customers. You might have a different opinion on this, but I'm just going to share my opinion with my audience. Is make sure that your reviews come from real customers. Google has been cracking down over the past couple years on like fake reviews. So like ask somebody who hasn't even used your business or your services, like, hey, can you just go out and leave me a review? Google is trying to crack down and get rid of like fake reviews or reviews that were paid for or incentivized in some way. So just make sure it's real and authentic. I think that only helps you and your brand more when they're real and authentic reviews. But I think you should definitely have a system and a process for getting them. So like if you like we use Nice Job. So like every time a customer, their job is finished, it automatically triggers our customers getting a request to leave a review, which is great. So have a process for it and get reviews as quick as you can. Like if you're a newer business and you're coming in to your industry and you look on Google and there's like a company that has, let's say 300 reviews, your goal should be like, hey, how do I get as close to that as fast as possible or get more in your area? So anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, a lot of businesses are scared of reviews because they're scared they might get a bad review. And, maybe they've possibly been judging other businesses based on their reviews and they're like, super judgmental and read all the reviews and like, oh, what if someone leaves me a bad review? Or maybe they
Yeah.
did get a bad review and they're like, "Ah, this review thing doesn't work because, look at this, right? Look at what these people are saying."
Yeah.
But like you said, authentic reviews is very important because the more reviews you have, the more other people can see that your business is legit. There's actual reviews on it and it makes the business trustworthy. And so
Hmm.
that helps Google to see that this business is in business, they're getting reviews, they're active, and it helps them rank you higher. It's not the beginning and the end of everything. Just because you have 1,000 reviews doesn't mean you're going to rank first on, ChatGPT or be found by Gemini or all of that.
Hmm.
Reviews is one small portion of all of the marketing and all of the things that helps make businesses trustworthy and helps the algorithms to find you. It causes an activity on the back end. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to be scared of a bad review. If I see a business and they only have 5-star reviews, that's weird, right? Because nobody only has 5-star reviews. Nobody is that good. Like there's no
We
business
do.
that is 100%. I don't know, man.
I'll share
Somewhere.
I'll share a perspective on this. Okay.
Okay.
So
I always think
we
it's bought if it's only 5-star reviews. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
So what we did as a business is we actually rolled out last year our 5-star service guarantee. And so
Okay.
what that means for us, and now I've been in business for we're about to enter into our 10th year. My perspective on this, I have definitely had issues come up, right? There's definitely been problems that we've had to solve. We're actually dealing with a big problem right now that we have to solve. But
Mm.
even in the midst of that, we maintain with the customer. Our goal at the end of this is to provide a solution that when we are done, you will still leave us a 5-star review because you're like, wow, the way that this company handled this problem was amazing, right? And that's
Mm.
all I want. I want my customers to understand like the problem is not the problem. The only way that the problems or the issues become a problem is if you won't let us solve them because we want to solve them.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
I've been in situations in the past where I've given the customer like, hey, this is what we can do to fix this. And they don't want to let us fix it for some reason.
Yeah.
Like they're like, no, I'm not letting you back to my house to deal with this. And you're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm telling you that we are willing to solve whatever this problem is. You're just not allowing us to. And so in our 5-star service guarantee, it basically states that if you're not satisfied with the work that we've done, then we don't believe we're done with your job. And now I will say this, there are some customers that are harder to please than others. Certainly, like there are customers that have expectations that are kind of crazy in my own eyes. I'm like, wow, you really expect that? But here's
You
what
get
I
crazy
believe.
people out there. I'm with you, man. There, you get
My
really.
But my favorite book that I've ever read on leadership is called Extreme Ownership by Jocko
Mm.
Willink. It's a book by Navy SEALs. I don't know if you've heard it or read it. Read
Not
it.
yet. I'll go and definitely put it on my list. I love it. I love it.
It's
I'm always on
amazing.
Audible. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this book. And so what extreme ownership teaches is that really the main concept of the book is that there's no such thing as bad teams, only bad leaders, and that the best
Hmm.
leaders in the world take extreme ownership of whatever the outcomes are that come their way. So it's like if I get an upset customer, instead of my first reaction being to cast blame, like, oh, that customer's crazy or that customer has crazy expectations, I try to take a position of extreme ownership and say, well, I didn't vet that customer well enough. I should have understood their expectations better in the sales presentation. I should have asked better questions. I should have known that this was going to be a major concern, or that, they wanted this level of prep work done and I didn't communicate well enough what our level of prep was, or whatever the case may be. But I try to take a position of, I'm going to own that, because at the end of the day, I think most customers, I'm not going to say all customers, I will say most customers really just want to feel like they're getting what they paid for and getting the value that they feel they were hoping for or trusting you to provide. And so as the owner of my business, I feel like when a customer doesn't feel like they got that value, that's my fault, because I didn't gauge their expectations well enough. I didn't understand the value that they were looking for, or I gave them this expectation of, this is this value that we offer, and then I missed it, right? So now some people may disagree with me on this, but that's just the position that I take. And so I feel like there's no reason why I can't earn a 5-star review on every job, as long as I'm given the opportunity. And it takes extreme ownership. It takes the willingness to say I'm wrong, even in moments when I feel like maybe I'm right. It's a lot like marriage. It's like, I can have a really great marriage and I can argue because I feel like I'm right, or I can take a position of humility and ownership, even in a moment where I might feel like I'm right. But it's sacrificing my pride and my ego for the greater mission, which is a healthy marriage, a happy spouse, like a great home environment. And so I feel like it's not much different with a customer. It's like I'm sacrificing my pride and my ego of being right for the sake of providing that customer what they feel like they deserve, to maintain my reputation and to be a great company. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of, I love it. I love that you do that. And I think it's so beautiful. And you even mentioned marriage, that's so true. We need to do that. Is like, just put ourselves in the other person's shoes and
Right.
see, all right, how did they perceive this experience and why are they so upset, right? I have a client now. They, did a marketing campaign with us just literally a few months ago. We rebuilt their whole website. We listed their business on we did all the back work, like hours and hours and hours of work. And suddenly they're, pulling out of the marketing and there's no communication between, I've been trying to reach out, find out what's going on. Is there something we can change? But they're just going through a really rough time in their business and they're just pulling out of everything. And at first I was like, right, this is so unfair. Like, we did all the work, right? And now they're not paying. It's like hours and hours of work on the back end. And at first I wanted to, like, this sucks. And you feel this is really not cool. And I never expected it from this person per se.
Yeah.
And I went over and above. I did a ton of extra marketing videos and things that out of my own that, they didn't have to even pay for. Like, it was just something that I did because I just loved this person so much, in the meeting. And I did exactly what you said now. It's like, all right, just slow down, right? And think of, like, what is this person going through? Their business is struggling, right? They're, trying to blame everything on other people right now, because that's where their mind is at. They can't pay for certain things. They're just stuck, and now they're looking for excuses to blame everything and everyone else. And I just thought, all right, let me remember what I went through when I lost my business, right? It was, and I actually lost it. Like, I lost everything. I didn't have a home anymore. I didn't know how I was going to feed my kids. I went from being semi-retired to, like, on the street. And I remember it was excruciating. It was so painful. My brain was fried. I was everywhere trying to find solutions and just so scared and so fearful, and just like, I'm sure I might have, like, said a few things to people around me that I don't even recall right now, but I don't know, right? You do things because you're in anxiety, you're just in a whole different mind space.
Yeah.
And I just remembered that and I thought, you know what? All right, I'm just gonna put myself in her shoes and just relax and just let everything go. Like it's my loss, like, all the hours, all the work, everything else, just release that and just pray for her and know that this sucks, like going through something like that. Don't take it
Yeah.
personally. And like you say, like next time, where can I improve on what I presented? Or like you say, screen the client. I mean, when she signed on, she already knew she wasn't going to pay and pull out, right? It was kind of
Yeah.
maybe a last hope or something that she grabbed onto, like maybe this will be like the $1 million fix that'll turn my whole business around in 1 month,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
no marketing campaign will do. I can actually say that. If that's where a business is at, please don't phone a marketer because it's too late, right? Then at that
Yeah.
point, there's other things that needs to be done. But to pay marketing and think in 1 or 2 months, someone is going to pull your business out of, that space, it's impossible. Marketing doesn't do
Yeah.
that. Marketing is there to grow your business over time and
Hmm.
to keep it current, to keep you in front of people's eyeballs. Because if people don't see you, they forget about you. Even people that you've worked with before don't remember your service unless you're in front of them,
Yeah.
all the time. It's just unfortunate, people just don't remember anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love it. I love that you do that, and I literally went through that this weekend.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
just
it's very
like
powerful.
empathy is a really powerful thing. And I think
Mm,
trying to see things from another person's perspective is helpful in how we handle situations and
mm,
trying to like put yourself in that person's shoes. And even then you may not understand. Like you might say to yourself like, if I was in their shoes, I would have done this differently.
mm.
But I think the challenge is like everybody is so unique and so different. I say this and I know there's exceptions to it, but I think most people in their interactions, they really don't have ill intention. Right? They go into situations, I believe, expecting good things to come of it. And sometimes things don't go the way that we expect them to or want them to. And then it's just like this collision, right? And then you have people from different backgrounds and different, everything, right? There's just so much like that goes into making people who they are and making them respond or handle situations in certain ways. And so I think that empathy in those situations and trying to just lead from that place of extreme ownership is huge. And instead of like shifting blame, saying like, okay, well, what was my position in this and where could I get better? And then moving forward, I acknowledge, hey, that was not an ideal situation to go through, but what was my ownership in it and how do I, avoid it going forward?
Yeah, and
And I
learn
think,
from it, right? Because all of the things that we go through is things that we can learn from and
right.
grow from and get stronger through. I just did an interview recently with the guy. He's created flying cars, right? He lives right down in
Hmm.
Miami. He's the first flying car that's ready for personal use, and they're ready for production. They already have like over 600 orders, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's groundbreaking stuff. This is so cool. And I'm sitting with this guy interviewing him, and I asked him like, what has been your greatest challenge through this process, right? Because I mean, starting something that's never been done before, that kind of business, imagine that. I mean, we're all in business in a business that's already been done. You can talk to
Yeah.
people, you know how, right? This
Yeah.
is huge money. This is
Yeah.
daunting. It's completely, everything has to be designed, created. And he's an engineer, and he's got this calling on his life where he feels like he's got to create this flying car. And I'm thinking he's gonna say all the challenges that is in front of him, like how do you make this work, how do you make this, like the engineering things behind it, because that's super hard. Like I can't
Yeah.
even imagine doing that and building that. And it's done. And his answer to me was just crazy. He says no, his biggest challenge was himself, and is himself. Like that's who
Hmm.
he needs to get over all the time, and just being aligned with his calling, what he's here to do, his vision, his mission, and not let fear overwhelm him, and just growing within himself, like constantly trying to be a better version of himself.
It's
I
good.
thought that was He's just an incredible human. He's just such a great man. But what a
Yeah.
great answer. Like, he's not even looking at the small little things that come up against him every single day. He's putting that into perspective. Like, those are small things.
Yeah.
The money, I mean, he put his whole, he sold his house. There's huge things that he had gone through that, but yeah, his main aim is just to be a better human every single day. Like, that's his challenge, even in the
Yeah.
midst of all this groundbreaking stuff that he's doing. And I thought, wow, man, what a
Yeah.
great man that we can learn from. Because I think
For
sometimes
sure.
we put things out of perspective. We have a truck that's broken down, or staff that's not coming to work, or another staff that's,
Hmm.
just quit on us. And we blow it up as this huge thing. And yes, it's going to affect your day. It's going to affect your business. But, how can you grow through this experience? How can this make you better as a person, as a leader, as a business owner? And that's the key questions that if we focus on that, yeah, all these other things fall into place. You're going to find another guy that's going to work for you at some point if you look hard enough.
Yeah.
You're going to find that you're going to get that truck fixed that's broken. Somehow
Yeah.
you'll find money to pay for it. Like, these things, we get over them, right? I mean, I think of
Yeah.
all the little things that I stressed about in my life, in my business, even when I lost everything. And here I am again, like, working. I live in a house. I have a car. Like, I overcame all the
Yeah.
crazy stuff that I thought was the end of the world, right? And yeah, at that point, it was the end of my world as I knew it. But it's not the end of the world. Like,
Yeah,
these
no,
things
if
will pass, right?
you're on this side of heaven, you still got a purpose, and God still has something he wants to do through you. Which let's kind of transition. We only have maybe a few minutes left, so I just want to hit on this really quick. I think, you have Empower TV, you have a personal brand. What I want to jump into really quick as we finish this up, and it's a little bit different in the direction that I thought I was going to go, is I want you to share a little bit more on, obviously you had this major challenge that you faced as a person. I heard somebody recently say this is a billionaire in the home services industry. He went bankrupt, I think, like in the it was either late 90s or early 2000s. And he basically said that it was the best thing that ever happened to him because the thing that he feared the most happened to him, and he realized that it wasn't the end. And so he has since rebuilt, and he's again, like, he's even more successful now than he was then, because now he's not afraid of it. He's like, I've already been there, I've already overcome it, so if it happened again, I know how to, like, rebuild again, right? So which is unlocked, like, taking that fear away has unlocked, like, a new level of potential. And I know for myself, a lot of the things that I used to respond, like, hyper emotionally to challenges in my business. But now that I'm, going on 10 years in, I just realized, like, some of the things that I feared the most happen. And then I'm like, well, like, the only way to go is either, like, quit or just keep moving ahead, right? So you just figure it out. So I just want you to share with the audience a little bit more about your story, how you overcame those, like what would feel like the biggest defeat to most people, and really, like, how did you handle that, your mindset, spiritually? Just kind of dive into that if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, we took a whole new direction, right? So it's
Yeah.
awesome. I always love to see what God does in interviews, but there's obviously someone who needs this today. And you're spot on. Like, the biggest thing that holds us back is fear, like the fear of what if. And that was my worst. Like, the worst time for me, losing my business was not actually losing the business and losing my home and losing everything I have, and literally everything. Like, I don't even have albums with me, like my kids' photos or nothing. Like, I left
Hmm.
South Africa 4 years ago with nothing, literally 2 suitcases. That's it. And
Mm.
I joke, I say two, but I had a third one. I put my shoes in my daughter's suitcase as well. So she only had one. I had three.
That's funny.
So I did bring some extra shoes with. But the worst time was the fear of losing everything. It was the time before I lost everything. It's like, what if I lose everything? What if I don't have a house for my kids? What if we don't have food? What if all of this happens? And that agony, that it is excruciating, it eats you alive, right? And so what I know now is like, even if I lose everything, like God still have a purpose for me. And I still have a purpose on this earth, and I will get through it, and I will rebuild it, because I already built one business, right? And the fact that it didn't work out, yes, let me see what I can learn from that. And that is so powerful. It's exactly what that millionaire or billionaire said, right? Once you have that happen to you, you don't have that fear anymore, because you overcame it. Like, oh yeah, that happened to me. I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. I still have 2 hands, 2 feet. There's a lot of people that has much less than me. I can rebuild, I can restart. But yeah, so I would say the fear and overcoming that fear is the hardest part. And so my advice would just be is to not focus on that what if, right? Is to do what you can to prevent it. And then even if this horrendous thing happens to you, you will get through it, you will grow through it, you can learn through it, and you'll be stronger because of it.
That's good.
So that's my advice. And then the biggest thing that helped me through is forgiveness. Like I really had to forgive myself, right? For putting my family in that position, for making mistakes maybe that caused us to lose everything. I had to forgive my country, because in South Africa, the reason why the economy, started buckling or things went so bad is because of, very, very corrupt government. The crime was completely out of hand. Like I was held up at gunpoint like 4 times. I was attacked in my home in armed robberies. My kids almost, the last time they almost got to my kids, and it was just by the grace of God and an absolute miracle that I was able to personally fight off like an armed robber. And so all of these things happened, and then you start blaming the government. I started blaming, like I was mad, right? I lost everything. And it's because like the stupid government, this and this, and I was looking for excuses and people to blame. And that just makes you angry. It makes you mad. It makes you bitter. Like there's no point in that. It doesn't help you as a person at all. It'll keep you stuck. It'll keep you heavy. It'll keep you miserable. So literally I had to forgive my country. I had to forgive the government and anybody and everybody that, at one point maybe screwed me over with a deal or something that caused a huge loss. I just literally went one morning on the beach and I just sat and I prayed and I just started making a list of everything that's like stuck in my heart, and I forgave every single person. And that's like a huge relief. And then you can move on. Then you pick up the pieces and you move on. You look for a new opportunity. Like in the beginning, I came to America. We had to get food from church food banks, right? We didn't have any money. We had to live with people that were kind enough to give us a home. We had nothing. And the first time I found a job was selling timeshare at Hilton over the phone. Like I didn't even speak good English. And it was really hard, right, to do that job, but I was grateful for it. And I decided within myself, I'm going to learn everything I can through this job for the next job that God's got me. Like I totally believe that this is just a stepping stone, right?
Right.
And,
yeah, that's good.
And yeah, I just took it. I was just grateful. So gratitude is something that I would highly recommend, is focus on things that you can be grateful for. Like the sunrise. So I didn't have a house. I didn't have anything, but every morning I could go outside. Then I could look at the sunrise and say, wow, this is gorgeous. Let me just soak this up. Like it's a beautiful new day. How can I be a blessing in this day for someone else? And not how can this day bless me? And then it's just mind shifts, like small mind shifts, and just focusing on that. And that creates huge joy. And if I think back now, I mean, even the times where it went really bad and horrible, and we had so much fun, the kids and I, like we were, excited to get the food from the church pantry. And like, oh, what are we going to get this week? And not think about it in a way. It's like, man, I'm really down and out. Look where I'm at. Like, I got to get food from church food banks. Like, how did this happen to me? I was semi-retired. I was like really wealthy. And where am I at? Like, you can look at it that way, but that'll steal all your joy, all your power, everything. Or you can look at it and say, oh man, this is a new adventure. This is exciting. We're going to get through this. We're going to be stronger on the other side. And we are. I mean, we are. It's 4 years down the line since I, got on that plane with my 2.5 suitcases and my shoes, and it's awesome. I mean, here we are, got a beautiful home, cars, kids are happy and studying and whatnot, and so things can turn around. But what I've learned from it is so powerful. It's something that no one can ever take away from me ever again. Like I can lose my house again, I can lose my car again, but what I've learned,
Yeah.
I can never lose. And
Yeah.
that's empowering. That's really cool.
That's really good. I know that you've got to go soon, so I don't want to take too much more time, but I do just want to end with this. I grew up being homeless from like the time I was in like middle school, so probably seventh or eighth grade until I graduated. And we really struggled as kids. Like my mom was a single mom, and I've lived in hotels, motels, friends' houses, experienced all of that as a kid. And it's funny, like, you talked about forgiveness. I A lot of people ask me about my experiences as a kid, and they'll say like, wow, how do you still like love your mom or talk to your mom? And I'm like, it goes back to that whole empathy thing, right? It's like I can't ever explain life from my mom's perspective because I wasn't in her shoes. I couldn't live it. But what I can say is like my mom is a person just like I am. And the same way that she failed and made mistakes, and we went through that as a child. One thing that I'll never doubt is whether my mom loved me, right? And so I think that's a powerful thing. It's like, yeah, we struggled, and yes, my mom was an imperfect person and she made mistakes. And sometimes we were what is the, the word I'm looking for? We're the ones that were affected by it, right? So, but in those moments, you mentioned like you found joy in like moments of going to the church and going to the food bank or whatever. I mean, I can remember some of my best childhood memories would be like in a house with no electricity, no running water, in like one bedroom with me, my brother, my sister, my niece, my nephew, and us just like hanging out and talking and being together. And like literally all we had was one another. I mean, I lived out of suitcases so much of my like middle school to high school years. And even like you talked about having three suitcases. When I graduated from high school in Florida, my mom moved to Tennessee, and then I dropped out of college and I moved to Baltimore, Maryland to go into full-time ministry. And I left here with a bag of clothes. That's all I had. And I had actually planned on going there and then coming back and getting my stuff, and I felt like God told me not to come back. And so I stayed there and built my entire life from a bag of clothes. But anyway, it's just that I wanted you to share that story because I believe like one of the hardest things that we have to face as business owners, really at the end of the day, and you mentioned this about the guy in Miami, it's ourselves, right? It's our mindset. And I think if we can work on ourselves, that's why I say this podcast is meant to help home service business owners learn, right? So that they can lead well, because it starts with us, right? We got to educate ourselves, build our foundation. And I think the more that we educate ourselves and empower ourselves, then the less afraid we're going to be of like all the mistakes we could possibly make. But anyway, just super good. I could probably talk to you for hours, based on what you shared. So, but I want to be respectful of your time. Is there any last remarks that you'd like to leave with the guests and the audience and on what we've talked about today? I'll give the floor to you to bring any last thoughts or anything like that.
Thanks, Branden. Yeah, I think, this has been such an incredible conversation, and hopefully we've helped a little bit in terms of marketing and ideas of marketing and making that not as scary. But I think, my advice for business owners out there would just be to know that they have this business, to make a difference with in other people's lives. It's not just a service or making money from it. That's great, right? That takes planning, that takes hard work, and anybody can make money if they do it right, have everything in place. But I think the bigger thing here is that this is an opportunity for them to also mean something and, like you say, like grow as a leader. And through being that leader, you can really impact lives, the lives of your customers, the lives of people that's working for you. And then just really to see that bigger picture, be grateful for it, and grab it with both hands, because it's a gift. Not everybody has that.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, thank you so much for your time, Lorna. We are definitely going to have to do another interview, follow-up interview, just dive even more into your story, Mpower TV. I think there's a lot of just value that you can bring to the audience in the aspect of encouragement and motivation. and helping people with like where they're at in that personal journey of facing the challenges of entrepreneurship. So I'd love to get you back on here in the future and dive into that more. But in the meantime, thank you to my audience for joining in today. And thank you for following along with the Off the Ladder podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode or you found it helpful, please share it with somebody else so that they can benefit from it too. If you're listening to this on any major podcast platform, I'd really appreciate it if you could rate and review the show. That helps us to reach more people. And if you are a entrepreneur and you need some resources for your business, check the show notes below. You can use any of my affiliate links. I do appreciate that. I do get credit if you use them. And that helps to support the Off the Ladder podcast and our mission here. But thank you so much. And I will see you next time on the next episode of the Off the Ladder podcast.